Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. And today I'm excited because we are welcoming the very accomplished Joe Stolte to the podcast. Welcome, Joe.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. This is going to be great.
I'm excited. Today we're going to be touching on AI, which is a topic that I know I don't have a whole lot of background in.
I know you don't.
And I know you don't know anything about it. So today Joe's going to enlighten us. Joe, before we dive into kind of AI and daily.ai, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background. Share with our listeners some of the stuff that you've done over the years.
Awesome. Yeah, happy to. I guess my mercifully short self-aggrandizing background is I'm a 5-time technology founder. I've had 3 successful exits, including a company that we sold for $62.5 million and a company that went public on a SPAC for over $500 million. And today I'm the CEO of a company called daily.ai. And we help small brands and thought leaders build AI automated email newsletters that get 40 to 60% open rates without writing a single piece of content. And we're having a lot of fun. It's probably the most enjoyable business I've ever built and scaled.
Well, I do want to dive deeper into kind of that newsletter because it is unique. I have seen it. But before we do that, Joe, for our listeners and for Cameron, can you kind of explain like what AI is? Like everybody's talking about it and we've heard of the Chat GPT, but could you maybe give us an overview of what the heck is AI?
Yeah, good question. And then, let me just also say that, before we started rolling, like, I was born in a farm town of less than 1,000 people. Like, we didn't come from money. We didn't know anybody that even knew anybody that had money. It was like really great when we got our first traffic light at a McDonald's. So, like, I put my pants on one leg at a time. But with that being said,
well, you know what, Joe, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You got a good point. How did you get from this small town that celebrated one traffic light to founding 5 tech companies? Like, how'd you make that jump?
I believe that some very small percentage of humans are just predispositioned for entrepreneurship, and some aren't. And that's not like good or bad. It just is. And from a very young age, I was predispositioned for entrepreneurship. I can remember the very first thing I ever did that was entrepreneurial was, when I grew up in the 80s and, I was like 6 years old walking to school. My mom would just give me lunch money and the school lunch sucked. And I very quickly worked it out that if I went to the store and bought candy with my lunch money and I could trade it for the best lunches in the lunchroom where their parents actually had time to make them real food. And so that was kind of my first like hustle. And then my next one was like, I learned how to mow lawns, but hated it. So I lived in a farm town full of migrant workers. So I went and asked all my friends to borrow their lawnmowers, knocked on a bunch of doors, $10 a lawn, and had these like off-season migrant workers mow the lawns. And I kept half the money. They did all the work. And I just did that to buy like cool clothes at the time because I was getting a little bit older. So like something in me, I just had it in me, I think. And God just made me that way. But also part of it is just like, I'm just really curious. Like, I'm always like, how much farther can I go? And what else, what would happen if I pushed myself a little bit farther? And some days I'm like, man, I just wish I had a job. I could just phone it in today, but most days I'm like super curious and I want to know how much farther can I go? And that's really kind of what drives me. So I don't think I'm special or endowed with anything crazy. I just think I was blessed and cursed with that kind of drive. And I've just tried to get a little bit better every day and stay humble, stay a student, and just figure out what I can figure out day by day and rack up enough wins. And I guess you get to this point.
Awesome, man. So what was it? How did you fall into kind of the tech industry and specifically AI?
Yeah. And then I'd love to answer your question. What is AI? What's funny is I skipped college right off the bat and I was a professional dancer for like a while. I was a professional breakdancer.
So was Anthony.
Yeah. So, but that taught me mastery. Like I went deep, like we trained 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. My breakdancing crew won 2 world titles. The mayor of Seattle gave us our own day twice. I'm on the board, like people that got breaking into the Olympics. It'll be in Olympic adult sport in Paris this summer. So that was the first thing I really took seriously because like school never took that seriously. And then from there, hard pivot. I ended up going to school and I got a degree. I found a mentor that worked in management consulting. Started my career in corporate America. Did a few years in management consulting. Did a few years at Microsoft. And I just woke up and was like, dude, what am I doing? This is there's no leverage on my money, on my time, like not satiating my curiosity, all that stuff I had young. It just, so one day I just woke up and was like, hey, all my friends are leaving for Silicon Valley or LA to start tech companies. I'm still relatively young. I just gotten married. My father passed away from cancer. I was like, screw it. I'm leaving Seattle, leaving my breakdancing crew and Microsoft. And I'm going to go. I went to Venice Beach, California, 2 blocks from the beach, and was like, all right, let's go. And that was 10 years ago, you know, and the first company was a complete and total failure. It was very disappointing, but it was an amazing education and like bathing in the fire of the reality of your own thing. And it was my first tech company. How did I get into that? I just was like, I wanted to build a unicorn. I wanted to build $1 billion business. That was just what kept me up tonight. It was mostly egotistical and just the question of, could I do it? You know? But from there, I really fell in love with it, you know, and now we're on like 5th company, and I love technology. How did I get into AI? When I was selling my last company, I was kind of moonlighting on my next thing. I just put it out into the universe, and my coach at the time, I was like, hey, I'd really love to work on something with this, like in 2021, summer of 21. And I was like, AI seems like a thing that's going to be important, and I love marketing. It'd be cool if my next company had something to do with AI and marketing. And he's like, oh, that's funny. I know these guys, you know, Evan Pagan and Dr. Peter Diamandis, they have like this thing they're testing or building. It doesn't have any customers yet. And that's how I met my business partners. And then, you know, I just went all the way in. I saw it, and I was like, it just was like so obvious that this is the future to me. I was like, how could I build anything else in technology? And I've just, you know, since probably July, August of 2021, I've just spent a lot of my time diving into AI and thinking about it and building products and trying to help people with it. So.
Did you say your partners with Peter Diamandis?
Yeah. So in Daily.ai, my 2 business partners are Evan Pagan and Dr. Peter Diamandis, who, it was actually Evan's idea. And then Peter and him got together. They actually met at a friend of ours, Joe Polish. He runs a mastermind group called Genius Network. They met there, and you know, they really built it out into like an alpha product, but didn't really have any customers. It wasn't really productized. When I kind of came along and helped them take it into the market, you know, raise some capital and, you know, get the show on the road more or less.
Awesome. I got a follow-up question, but I'm gonna save it because I think it'll lead us into kind of what you're doing now on that. But Joe, in regards to kind of AI, I think a lot of people either fall on one side of the fence or the other, right? Really, they're embracing AI, or it scares the heck out of them.
Yeah.
Right. What's the reality? What's the opportunities here that are in front of us?
Well, I just want to high five the people that are both, that are scared and they're still embracing it, because that's
me. Honestly, I have some general concerns about AI.
Yeah. I mean, the best mental model that I think you could adopt to make AI palatable, if you're a little bit maybe not in love with change, or B, a little weirded out by it, is just think about it like electricity. It's gonna be like electricity. In fact, everything with electricity, everything that's electrified will be cognified. Everything with electricity will have AI. Some kind of machine learning or generative AI will be in everything with electricity, making it more intelligent, more useful, more adaptive, more personalized to you. I mean, literally everything. You know, it's already in most things. You just don't know it. Like your cell phone, if you have an iPhone, you take a picture. It doesn't take one picture, it takes like 6 and stitches it together and makes you look like a genius. If you have an Android phone and you go outside and you take a picture of the moon, if you have an iPhone, you would take a picture of the moon at night on a clear night, it just looks like a blurry star. If you take a picture of the moon with your Android phone, there's an AI machine learning program that deconstructs that image and makes the moon look awesome. But you'd never know. It's in most things. It's in the suggestion engine in Netflix. It's in the suggestion engine in Amazon. I tell this story quite a bit, but about a year ago, I took my family to Japan, and we got a little apartment there. And there's this awesome washer dryer. It's 1 unit. You put your clothes in, and it washes it overnight, and it uses AI to use the exact right amount of water and the exact right amount of electricity to keep it quiet and running all night. It knows if its lights are darks. It knows what soap to use. And it just runs all night energy efficiently while you sleep, and you wake up and your clothes are dry. You don't even have to move them. I mean, that's all done with a form of AI, right? Machine learning. So earlier you asked like, hey, what is AI? There's lots of forms of AI, right? Artificial intelligence. But I think just to give a few that you might know about or have encountered, you know, one of them is machine learning. You know, it's like the things that I've suggested: the phone, the Amazon, the Netflix. Another one is called computer vision. This is like the technology that lets my Tesla drive itself, amongst other technologies that enable that. And then another one is generative AI, which is kind of like the Chat GPTs, the Google Geminis, the DALL-E 3, the image, text to more text, or text to image generation, or in some cases text to video. And so I think today when you say AI, what comes to mind is like the Chat GPT type tools of the world, right? Mm-hmm. But AI is like this umbrella, and there's lots of other kinds of technologies that are under that umbrella. So there's lots of ways that you can embrace AI, and there's lots of ways that I think you're already embracing it, whether you know it or not. So rest assured, you're well on your way. You're doing just fine.
Great, Joe. You gave me 3. I was trying to write them down. If you don't mind repeating those, what were the 3 types of AI?
Yeah, and there's more, but I'm just giving 3 that are easy to like. The first one would be like computer vision.
Okay.
Like taking, like going out, and it's what drives my Tesla. The cameras and the technology that makes sense of the world and understands that that's a person or a truck or a thing, and it can navigate the world and navigate physical objects through the world using computer vision models that approximate the outside world and then make sense of that in a useful way. Then there's machine learning, which is, what's the best way to describe it? It's like taking a bunch of data and then making really intelligent, insightful predictions around what should come next, or amalgamating that data in a really useful way. And then there's we'll just call generative AI, which is it's a form of machine learning, but it's more of what you would see in like a Chat GPT or like a DALL-E 3. If you don't know what these things are, like DALL-E's like you input text and it gives you an image, right? At Mid-Journey, same thing. Chat GPT is a chat bot that sits on top of what's called a large language learning model, which you don't even really need to know what that means. It's just that you put in text, and it's basically guessing what the next best thing should be based on your text prompt. And it's doing that through something called natural language processing, which is probably more technical than we need to get into. But the main point is there's different kinds of AI. You're probably already interacting with it. And it's going to be like electricity. Imagine if you're fortunate enough to have a family member that either remembers this or talked to a family member that did. What was life like before there's no electricity? How did you communicate? Right? It was face to face, or you sent letters. And if you want to send a letter from the East Coast to the West Coast back in the day, pre-electricity, I think it took something like weeks or a month to get all the way across the country, maybe even longer. So and then how did you get around? Horse and carriage. Right. And then they came out with cars. And then when electricity came out, they came out with cars that had headlights so we could drive at night. Right. So electricity just came in and it changed every single industry. Overnight, everything got transformed, and whole new industries, million/billion-dollar industries, were born overnight thanks to electricity. Well, just think about the same way. Everything that has electricity is going to have AI, and the same thing is going to be true, whether that's your TV, your phone, your microphone, your car. Literally everything. Like, just think anything that has electricity that is dumb or isn't connected to the internet and doesn't have AI helping it is going to have that. And the same kind of economic opportunity will take place. So if you're listening to this and you're an investor, you're like, well, how can I bet on the future? How can I use this to bet on the future? Well, you can just look at everything that doesn't have AI in it, that has electricity, and assume it will have AI, and bet on the companies that are making that possible. That's one way. There's lots of ways, but that's how I think this is going to unfold. That seems fairly obvious at this point.
Now, Joe, with a lot of our listeners, a lot of them are, like Cameron's shirt is, our goal is to get our passive income to be more than our monthly expenses. So what are some ways that someone can use this, maybe if they're a smaller individual investor or business owner, whether it's in their business or really about saving time? Are there some things that we can use it to save our time so we can do some more important things?
Yeah. Okay. So let's say that I'm investing capital into small multifamilies or single family homes or something like that. Right. Mm-hmm. And let's say I also have the opportunity to invest in like mortgage trust deeds or private lending. Right. Mm-hmm. I could actually I could go into ChatGPT, and I could tell ChatGPT, hey, you're an expert in investing in real estate and private mm-hmm. lending. Here's my goals. I have this much outgoing expenses. And here's much passive income I have. Here's much investable capital I have. Here's one deal that I have that's single family real estate. Here's all the data around that. And here's my private lending. And here's how much I think about risk, or, how risky I want this to be, or how much elbow grease I'm willing to put in. Help me understand the trade-offs between these two investments to understand which one I should pursue. And it will just help you think through it, right? Or let's say you're just looking at the single family deal. It's a triplex. Put all the numbers in. Hey, this is in, I don't know, Muscatine, Iowa, and it's a 3 triplex, and here's all the data. I'm trying to decide if we should deploy this much capital. Here's my goals. Here's my investable capital. And here's ultimately what I want to do with passive income. And you can ask it, what questions should I be asking myself to see if this is a good deal? Or I'm going to do this deal using the inversion thinking mental model. What are 5 ways that it could go wrong and I could lose my money? So poke holes in it with me, So it can become your thought partner in any deal that you're investing. It just becomes this very intelligent third-party person or thing that you can have a discussion with and just talk to it, right? And see what it comes up with. And there's a formula to it, right? Like if you go in, when you're prompting, you can say, hey, you are an X. Yeah, you're an expert in something. Tell it that so it knows what to focus on. Here's what my objective is. Here's what the context, and then start asking it questions. I'll give you another example. If some of your listeners have kids, this is one of my favorite things to do. Instead of riding around and listening to music or letting my kids look at nonsense content on my phone, what we'll do when we're driving in the car is I open up ChatGPT on my phone. It's connected to my car, my Tesla, and then I just push a button. I can talk to it, voice, and I'll just ask, and I'll say, hey, you're an expert in animals, and assume you're talking to a 6-year-old when you answer this. So give me lots of fun analogies. What would happen if a scorpion got in fight with a praying mantis? Because that's what my son wants to know. And it'll just make up this whole thing about these animals and what would happen, and it entertains the kids. Or the other day, I'll give you another example. Like I was in the kitchen and I just took a picture of what was in my fridge. I was like, hey, my wife wants me to make a cheeseburger. How can I make the cheeseburger awesome and better than normal with these ingredients? And it just starts telling me, oh, it looks like there's onions. You could do the grilled onions and blah, blah. I'm like, well, I'm going to make it in the air fryer. So, and it's giving me recipes. I made the best burger I've ever made in my life. So the possibilities, guys, are endless. Imagine you're talking to like a truly higher form of intelligence that knows a lot about a lot of things, and imagine what's possible. And it's just, you're just talking to like a friend, and it'll give you answers.
So Cameron, it's kind of like when you have questions about infinite banking and you come to me, the expert, and I kind of help build you up. Kind of same thing.
2 Anthony's around. Wow, that's amazing.
Joe, what about, we have a lot of clients that are, maybe they have these small businesses. Maybe it's an online business, or maybe they're wholesaling or flipping some real estate. So they don't have a lot of staff, right? A lot of times everything is coming on, the founder. Are there some ways some of these smaller time business owners can leverage the use of AI?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just put AI aside, right? Okay. And I think if you want to be a business owner, and it's just like you, one of the first things that I would want to do is build up enough capital in my business so that I could leverage the most important thing in my life, which is time. Mm-hmm. How do I buy my time back? That's the very first question that I would have. But let's say that you're at the point where maybe you could afford to hire a $500 a month person from the Philippines. All right, you go to onlinejobs.ph, you find a great person, or anybody that can support you on that. Right now, there's studies that have come out that have shown that the humans that get the most productivity gains from using tools like ChatGPT aren't like people up the experience curve in terms of knowledge workers. It's people that are on the low end. So I can go into a market like the Philippines or Brazil or Colombia, and I can hire talent at maybe 1/6 or 1/8 the cost that I could in the United States. And I can get to them the 90 or 95% of the productivity of hiring someone in the United States by teaching them how to use ChatGPT, or teaching them how to use tools like generative AI in order to increase their capability. So right off the bat, that's what I would be doing. So if I'm a wholesaler, I would inventory my time. Where am I spending my time, right? In terms of like outreach or finding deals or making connections or whatever that is. Maybe it's outreach. Maybe it's like cold outreach, and I'm looking for off-market properties, and I don't want to do that myself. Well, I could pay an offshore resource to do that. I could also use a chatbot to do that, depending on where I'm doing that. Is that on LinkedIn or Instagram or cold email? I can use an AI chatbot, or I can use a Philippines or any offshore resource with generative AI to just do what I do, and then route leads to me once they're appropriately qualified. And I just bought some time back, and I've upskilled a really inexpensive resource to be as competent as I am. So I could keep going, but that's the main opportunity that I see right now. Just with that specific example you gave me, is like buy my time back and upskill the people that I'm leveraging so that they're as good or better than me. And then I'm going to go focus on higher leverage things. Like maybe if I'm wholesaling, I want to go up a notch and start flipping and find capital partners to support my projects and that kind of stuff.
Well, great, Joe. I've got a question for you, maybe transitioning into kind of newsletters and daily.ai. Is that, man, I thought newsletters were dead, to be honest. Is that, man, I was telling Anthony, man, I remember when we first kind of started getting into this industry, and I would go out there and I'd network and meet individuals all across Vegas and get signed up for stuff. And man, I'd start receiving newsletters, and the newsletters were terrible. And from what I'm understanding, is yours is a little bit different, right? Could you tell us a little bit about kind of daily.ai?
Well, absolutely. Well, first of all, I think it's important to know that email still has more daily active users than any social media platform on the planet. 4.6, I think it's 4.6 billion. It's been a while since I've quoted this. A lot of people use email. If you're in B2B in any capacity, or even B2B2C, I give these keynotes all over the country, and I'll say, hey, raise your hand if you use email in your business. Everyone raises their hand. I don't care what they're Gen Z or they're Gen X or they're like 60 or 70 years old. Then I say, keep your hand in the air if you use TikTok in your business. 95% of the hands go down. I'm picking on TikTok, but I'm just pointing out that everybody still uses email. Yeah. Love it or hate it. It's how we do business. It's one of those technologies that it's hard to die. But why newsletters? I think newsletters, first of all, like email still, I think email still like the killer app of the internet, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I love newsletters because I think there's a lot of innovative opportunity there. I don't think first of all, I think you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you have a product or service, customers, patients, clients, whatever you call them, and they're buying from you and they're happy, and you're not mailing your prospects, your market, or your current customers on a regular basis, and they want to hear from you, you're leaving an opportunity on the table. That opportunity is trust. Consistency creates trust, and trust creates transactions. If you're in the market every Wednesday or every week, communicating to your audience, providing them value, trying to help them without hard selling them, that creates a conscious and subconscious bond to your market that's super important for long-term relationships, for driving conversion, for taking care of people, right? And so it's a really low-hanging fruit opportunity to be in front of your market. And now I could say the same thing about social media. The challenge is I don't control the algorithms. I go post on LinkedIn and maybe hit a 0.1% of my followers or audience. Same thing with Instagram, same with Facebook, same thing with TikTok. I'm in competition with, 16-year-olds who spend, maybe 20 hours fretting over the first 3 seconds of their video so they can go viral. Well, in the inbox, I own all my subscribers. As long as I don't do anything dumb to get put in spam, I can reach them all the time, right? So that's why I love email, and that's why I love newsletters. It's because it's like giving your customers a huge value hug and making a promise to show up in the market. And you can do that fairly cost effectively without praying that you reach all of them, which is kind of what happens on social media. Now, to be clear, I don't want to knock social media. One of my favorite marketers in the world is a guy named Jay Abraham, and he said you should get everything you can from everything you've got. So if you're up for social media, do it all. Just, I think there's more bang for your buck. Also, depending on what data you look at, it's either a 30-to-1 or 40-to-1 ROI for every dollar you spend email versus other channels from a marketing perspective. So the data is on your side. If you want to do marketing things that make money, email is a great place to be doing those things.
I tell you, Joe, when I hear newsletter, like my thought process is kind of a little clunky, like cookie cutter. Like I had a business before, and we there's inside joke, but about me, I had a CPA firm. Okay. And but companies would come in and they would sell like the same newsletter to all the CPAs. So it's kind of the same content, but it just had a different logo on here. And it was kind of, I would say, stale. How is what you guys do different than what we're kind of thinking about in regards to newsletters?
Yeah, great question. Well, let's go all the way back. We talked about communication, right? So way back in the day, first way we communicated was person to person. We're just talking. You might talk one to person, one to one or one to many. Then we started doing letters. Then fast forward, we started doing direct mail, right? So you use direct mail of guys in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Well, even now, you go mail a bunch of households, a physical piece of snail mail. Then we had email, which is great. Now it's like much lower cost. We can deliver this much more efficiently. But the challenge is what I call the 3 forms of truth, right? So there's 3 forms of truth. There's what a company thinks the market wants. There's what the market says that they want. And then there's what they actually click on, what they actually open. We pay attention to all 3, but we really over-index on that third one, which means that every time we send a newsletter on behalf of one of our customers, we have a machine learning algorithm that looks at what every single subscriber is doing, who opened, who didn't, what time did they open, what content did they click on. And it uses that information to make the next edition even smarter and smarter and smarter, so that it's dynamically updating the content based on that third thing, what your audience actually clicks on, instead of having to guess. And so I think with a normal newsletter, there's a lot of guessing. Will my audience like this? And it is true that if you show up versus not show up, like that's a huge step in the right direction. I commend that. I don't think you need to send an AI newsletter. I just think if you want, kind of an unfair cheat code for actually getting it opened and clicked and paid attention to, then you should be really paying attention to your data. And why us? We've just done a really good job of like automating that. So you don't even need to know how it works. You just need to sign up and let us do the magic for you.
Well, tell me a little bit more, because I'm thinking newsletter. Do I need to write these blogs and these articles, or how are they put together?
Yeah, great point. Or great question. What we don't do with AI is we don't go and try to write content from scratch, right? Just use AI to write content from scratch. Why? It's hard to automate that because today AI is like a really, really good intern. You probably wouldn't want to ship intern work to the marketplace. You want someone with a little bit more experience to look at it. So we don't write content from scratch. What we do is we built a machine learning algorithm that goes out and looks at all of the world's content, and it scrapes millions of pieces of content every day, talking about podcasts, YouTube videos, blog posts, scientific journals, you name it. And it filters out negative news. It filters out clickbait, and it filters in what we call future forward positive content that you'd be proud to publish to your audience as a publisher. And we take you through an experience in our product where you're able to fill out a survey, and we know what would you want to publish and what would you not want to publish. And then we scrape third-party content, right? So why try to, like, let's say I'm making a newsletter for a real estate agent. Real estate agents don't just want to hear about real estate. Real estate agents are like mini entrepreneurs. They probably care about real estate. They're probably caring a little bit about how to get their sales skills sharp. They might want to learn a little bit about marketing. They might want to learn a little bit about productivity, or depending on your market, they might want to learn a little bit about like flow state or wellness or whatever. So we want to talk to the whole prospect, the whole person, not just my thing, right? Because we want to serve them. So I can go out and curate the best newsletter in the world that talks about whatever they want to know about market rates, what's happening in the bigger market, how to sharpen your sales skills, productivity things, and whatever else we choose to put in there. But instead of trying to write the world's best productivity content, I can just go scrape content from James Clear's sites, right? James Clear is probably the cleanest thinkers in the planet on that topic. If I'm talking about wellness or like biohacking, I can go get the Peter Attias and the Dr. Hubermans of the world. Like they make amazing content.
Yeah.
All I'm going to do is package it. And what our newsletters look like, it's 7 to 8 pieces of content. They could be your content, could be your podcasts, could be your newsletters, or it could be your blog posts, whatever. And they package that up with third-party content and your ads, and we put it into an amazing sort of what I call a 3 thumb scrolls worth of content, where it's a beautiful image, a headline, and a really tight summary. And it just does that 7 or 8 times, and we can send that, monthly, weekly, or daily. And what that does is it allows it's inviting and engaging for people to open. They want to open it because they know they're going to get a bunch of cool, highly curated content that's tuned to their interests. But also, it's not like a normal, boring newsletter. When you open a normal, boring newsletter, what do you see? A bunch of words. We think with newsletters, we've made this thing up. We call it the readability burden. There's a readability burden. If I ask for your attention and I have a newsletter that's got a bunch of words, that's a high readability burden. You better be delivering me the most important content on the planet. Like, it better be super fire. I better be getting a lot of value out of that. So what we do is we try to break it up, and we break the text and the imagery and the headlines up in a way where I can just quickly scroll through it and get what I need to get. And if I want to go deeper, I can click deeper on it. So the readability burden on our stuff is very low. It's kind of like opening up a social media platform and getting a couple of thumb scrolls in before you flip to something else. It's the same thing. We just do it in newsletter form, and we do it in a way where we know we can help you reach your audience. And it's for you, right? That algorithm's for you instead of for, Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok.
Joe, if somebody wanted more information, where could they go? And then are you able to, I don't know, give us an example of a business or somebody that has found success?
Can I share my screen on this? Sorry. But yeah, I can. I can show it to you. I can just walk you through it. But if you want to learn more, it's really simple. Just go to daily.ai. Instead of .com, it's daily, DAILY, .ai, daily.ai, and just book a demo. You can look at our pricing page. You can look at some of the people on our platform that have gotten success. There's some testimonies and that kind of thing there. But ultimately, like, if you think that it's a fit, just book a call. One of our people will help you make the best decision for you. Explore what your current situation is. And if it's not a good fit, we'll definitely tell you, because we don't want anybody on the platform that's not getting the value. But yeah, just go to daily.ai, and I can give you, if I can share my screen, I'll show you a newsletter. If not, I'll just explain it. But we make the newsletter for some really cool thought leaders that you'd probably heard of. People like Peter Diamandis, people like Chris Voss, who wrote the book Never Split the Difference and was a former FBI hostage.
Love that book.
It's great, right? So we make an AI newsletter for Chris and his team, the Black Swan Group. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite newsletters. We make the newsletter for Joe Polish. His book, you can see it over my shoulder here, the yellow one. It's called What's in It for Them. You could go to connectioninsider.ai and subscribe to that newsletter and kind of get a sense of what it looks like. We also recently launched the newsletter for RFK Jr., the presidential candidate. This is not like an endorsement or an indictment of his political position. We just happen to have him on as a customer. And we also do the newsletter for people like JJ Virgin and Dan Sullivan and a bunch of big thought leaders. But what I don't want to leave you with the impression with is, like, you have to be a famous thought leader or a content creator. Most of our customers are like the coffee shop in Bethesda, Maryland, the private equity firm, the real estate lending platform, the coach or the consultant, the service-based business, that's the local business. Just people that have no time but have awesome customers that want to hear from them. We can come in and create a newsletter better, faster, and cheaper than almost any human team on the planet. And we make it really affordable for smaller organizations to do that. And we make it really easy to work with them, so they don't have to learn another tool or spend a bunch of time fussing about it.
Fantastic, Joe. That was some great information. There were some tidbits on what things we can execute. Maybe we don't need to be as scared as AI. And it's kind of like, it's here. I mean, you don't use it. I mean, your competitors will. So I think there's a point where we need to, there's some ways that we can incorporate this to save time and also maybe even save some cost as well.
Absolutely. Joe, I went to your website, checked it out, beautiful layout. And then we've also received one of the emails that I think one of your customers is using. It looked great. So if you guys are out there, make sure you go check out the website. And Joe, really appreciate you coming on today and sharing some of your expertise.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks so much, guys.
Absolutely.
Go make it a fantastic day.
Take care.